You're listening to Relatable with Stephanie Michele, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michele, and I'm super excited about what we're going to be talking about today. And oddly enough, I started to review past shows, and there's a connection to the first show and this show. And, as I was looking and reading through some of the moments on the first show with Georgia, you might have remembered, and we talked about childhood. There was a moment where she said something that was about, it only takes one human interaction, and it just changes everything. And of course, those changes can make your day or they can break your day. And my thoughts are, well, if we know this, why wouldn't we be more intentional about who we interact with, and and really try to lift each other up and focus on having really good interactions with people. So I like this idea of having or creating a favorite human list, and this is going to be the social exercise for this show. And when I think about who's on my favorite human list, there's some qualities that they have, and they're qualities that the two people in the studio with me today actually have. So I think of people that are great listeners, that give practical advice, that are good storytellers, that just, spend good quality time with you. And I've experienced that with Dennis to my left, and then after meeting Lucy, I've experienced that with you too. So you guys are on my favorite human list. We'll talk more about what that means. But I encourage people to think about, what it means to put somebody there, and how can you honor them, and how can you create interactions with them that are inspiring for both of you. So we're going to talk more about that at the end too, because that is the challenge for today. And now I'm going to list a series of names that might be connected to somebody's favorite human list. So keep track of how many names that I list. So here we go. So we have Lauren Elise, Alyssa Yen, Howard Noah, Emma Ruth, Samuel Emerson, Michele Eve, Jonah Thoreau, Shava Grace, Anna Kate, Jedediah Whitman, Isabel Viva, and Solomon Henry. Are you counting? Did everybody count? That's 12 names. And if you guess that it might have something to do, this list might have something to do with the people in the studio with me, it may be their favorite human list, because these are all children of the two sitting next to me in the studio. So, in addition to knowing that I'm in the presence of two people that could probably write an encyclopedia series of books on parenting, and for my millennials and my Gen Zers, that's a mother load of Wikipedia pages. But as a single person that lives alone with a very spoiled dog, I'm personally, fascinated what it's like to live in a household so full of energy all the time. So in addition to parenting, it's this whole idea of community that I'm kind of interested in learning more from you guys about. So there's a lot here. We can talk about relating, we can talk about communication. I'm just going to get right into it and tell you a little bit about the people to my left here. So first, this is Dennis Bernstein. He is a husband, a father, a citizen, a poet, a chef, a philosopher, a golfer, and in his spare time, if there is any after that, he is a management consultant for small and mid-sized businesses. And Lucy Bernstein is a seeker of truth, a committed resident of planet Earth. We need more of those right now. A daughter, a sister, a mother, a partner, a writer, and a teacher. And Lucy teaches yoga with the specialties of aqua and restorative yoga. So welcome the Bernsteins.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's just get right into it. So the first thing that I ask anybody that's on the show is there anything that's just pulling your attention right now before we get into some of the things that we're going to talk about today? Like, it might not necessarily be a distraction, but it's just on your mind that you'd want to share.
No, I'm pretty much right here.
You're right here?
I'm right
Yeah.
here. So I've got all of my attention focused right here, Stephanie.
I kind of expect that of you. Like I mentioned in the opening monologue, I've experienced this with you, that you are very present when you sit down and give somebody your time. So,
Yeah.
Lucy, do you have any?
The most distracting thing for me is this microphone.
Yeah.
But I'm doing my best to ignore it. And so just to be here,
Make friends with
forget about that.
We should name them. And we'll base that
That
out.
actually might work.
Yeah. Meet Mike. All right, I understand that. I can understand that. All right, well then, let's just start by what's a day like in the Bernstein household? What's like 24 hours like in your home?
Oh my gosh. Let's see, Dennis gets up first.
Well, yeah, I start pretty early in the morning, and for a lot of years, when a lot of the kids were a little smaller, I was the guy that woke everybody up, got the day started, kind of got breakfast going, that kind of thing, and that is still somewhat of the case. And then, the kids start to leave. Now we have a fair amount of older kids that are off to either going to school by themselves or going to work or going to do whatever, sort of fun stuff they've got going.
All the best breakfasts are cooked by Dennis.
That's true.
I pour
I wouldn't argue
cereal
with
and
that.
spoon yogurt.
And
So
then-
if there's good breakfast, that happens.
Right.
From
And
Dad.
right. and then I think from there it's I'm either working or Lucy's working, and then the kids all start to pile home in the afternoon. Lucy brings them home, or now we have the luxury of having some of the older kids, pick up kids.
Nice.
The younger kids pick up
They've
kids
been-
at school.
Yeah.
They've inherited a role.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah.
for sure. And then in the evening, it's a little bit of dinner, and honestly, I think I think people tend to think that it's this big family dinner every night, or it really doesn't quite work that way. Mostly because everybody's coming in and out, and that may be a problem of modern life, but. So kids come in and the food stays out for a few hours, and they grab and go and do whatever it is they need to do. And
Now we have to make vegetarian food.
right, yeah, we have vegetarians.
It's
It's
become much
really
more complicated
Yeah.
as the kids and we have all become more responsible with the kinds of food that we buy
Mm-hmm.
and the kinds that we consume, and so it's a little bit sometimes tricky.
It can be.
It was a lot easier when it was just sort of mindless kid food.
Right.
Yeah.
Hot dogs and macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
And then usually there's kids coming over. So there's friends of the kids, and so typically especially in the summertime, there are kids at the house. I mean, you can wake up in the morning and there might be 2 or 3 kids laying on the couch, or it does happen
You're just
quite a bit.
stumbling over children all
Yeah,
the time.
for the
Kinda.
most part, yeah.
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 Do they have
A lot of energy for sure.
Yeah. Do they have to coordinate, like who gets to have friends over? It's just who's.
I feel like they're all very respectful in that, they say, "Hey, Mom, is it okay if I have a few friends come over for a while?" It's always okay. It's
Yeah.
never not okay.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of that respect, like, I'm going to let Mom know that we're going to come over.
Yeah.
And of course, the little kids have play dates, so that goes on. That's planned by the parents.
Yeah.
I love how calmly you're talking about this, because I know I have friends that are listening that have 1 or 2 children. They're like, my day is chaos all the time, and you're just like, oh, we just have lovely breakfast, and then they go, and then we pick them up, and then they have dinner. Like, how did you get to that? I mean, how did you get to this? There's a sense of peace about it right now in the studio.
Well, do you want to give that a go? I mean, I probably could share some.
There's a
thoughts on it.
story about if you stick a frog in a pot of water and then turn the fire on.
That's right. That's not a bad
The
way.
frog doesn't sort of notice that it's being cooked.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if
Well-
you just have one child at a time, And every couple of years, there's one more.
Yeah.
It just sort of comes together as, you kind of don't even notice.
Yeah.
I mean, you do, because it feels so good to me.
Yeah.
We all come together, and every child is another sort of instrument in the symphony, everything just gets richer and fuller, and the work part of it, you just get used to it.
Like laundry.
Yeah, you just get used to it.
Do you have 2 dishwashers?
No.
You're like, yes, 3 children.
We don't have 2 dishwashers, but
we have 2 refrigerators.
We do have 2 refrigerators.
Yeah.
One in the house and one in the garage.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. When they came out with front-loading washers and dryers,
Mm-hmm.
and that washer would take basically about 3 times the amount of clothes as the old things did,
Yeah.
it changed my life.
That was a celebrated day in your household. Yeah.
I was amazed.
Yeah, but I think the kids, they've all started doing their own. I think they all start doing their own laundry when they're about 13 or so.
Yeah.
13 or 14, they start.
They don't want me to ruin their clothes.
Yeah, they all are doing their own laundry, so they get.
Well, they
get a
probably
sense of
want
that.
stuff at a certain time, right?
Yeah.
Their favorite shirt, and you're like, hey, we're not there yet. Like, we're not doing laundry
It's
yet.
dangerous if your stuff gets lost in Gen Pop.
Ah.
Yeah.
What is that?
Gen Pop is general
General
population of clothes.
That's a prison term.
Gen Pop. Hilarious.
Too much Law and Order.
Gen Pop. I love it. Well, you guys have hinted a little bit about roles. We started to hear about breakfast, our good breakfast, fast breakfast, good breakfast.
Right.
What other things, how do you handle parenting? Like, do you talk about the roles? Do you switch off? Like, is there good cop, bad cop dynamics going on? Like, what's that look like?
Well, there's no good cop, bad cop, and I would venture to say that there's if you were to describe it that way, I would like to think that it's, if you talk to the kids, they would basically say, both of us are good cops. We don't play that role, and we certainly don't play off each other that way. We've been on the same page about what we think's important in raising children, I guess what I'd like to do is actually probably tell a story.
Yeah.
I think in some sense, for me, I grew up in a house with one brother and a Jewish mom that was, who cleaned the house before the house cleaner came to clean the house. So we kind of grew up in a very...
My mom is not Jewish, but resembles that mark.
Right, it's not a characteristic of only Jewish moms.
Yeah.
But the point being is that, so I came out of a relatively rigid sort of house that, certain requirements, and Lucy grew up in a house with 10 children, so she came out of a very different environment, much more, in a sense, relaxed, although her father could be challenging, like fathers from the 50s and 60s and whatever. So when we first got married, I, expected certain things, right? I expected certain things to be a certain way when I came home from work. That, which, much to my surprise, that's just wishful thinking. And
That was your problem.
That was my problem,
Yeah,
exactly.
your
So I came home and
We weren't first married. There were kids already.
Yeah.
oh no, there were kids already. Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, but early on, how's that?
Yeah.
So I came home and the house was an absolute mess, and I, so I said to Lucy, I go, what's going on? The house is a mess. I mean, what are you doing? This sounds really horrible right now. What are you doing all day? Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that. And so she looked at me and said, well, had you come home 90 minutes ago, it would have looked great. And here's the message I got, and the same thing I think with the kids when, I would sort of start to step in and want to, kind of correct something or get angry about something. She would look at me and say, you better pick your battles carefully. And out of all of that, I think for fathers, it's, it might be different. I think fathers have to really learn generally, not I hate doing it sort of universally, but I think fathers generally have to learn the incredible lessons of what mothers really are. And then they can put their spin on that and make it father-like. But fathers really need to understand the mothering side of a parent, because then I think they can be really exceptional at helping to bring the kids along and allowing them to do that.
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean
Well,
by
I
the
think
mothering
that
side? Or?
well, there's a nurturing side to mothers that, and I don't know. Again, universals are always problematic, but there is an unbelievable connection between children and their mothers. And a lot of that, no matter how many times I held the babies or cared for the babies, or even, and Lucy nursed all of our children, so that bond, I don't know that a father can ever get.
It's the oxytocin bond, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that, if you ask the kids, they're all going to sense Mother and Mother Earth. There's no, and Lucy's an embodiment of that. And so I think what fathers have to do is try to figure out, how to bring that part. I mean, fathers have to play a slightly different role. They've got to, they've got to be a model for work and for taking care of the family. And in the world we live in, both parents are taking care of the family from a perhaps survival sort of point of view. But at the same time, that role model's got to get played, and at the same time be able to, grab a kid and hold them and hug them and love them beyond that, the nurturing side of it. And it took me a while. I mean, I'm still learning, because it's
any good parent would have to, right?
It's easy to sort of get drawn back into, I want it to be simple. I just want to make a rule and have them follow the rule. And the fact of the matter is that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
I have one more story, really quick.
Okay, all right.
So I walked by.
I'm directing my next question to her.
Good, thank goodness. Because one more story though. I walked by a room, one of the rooms, and the room's a mess. And so there's 2 or 3 kids living in that room, which of course, why wouldn't it be a mess? You have 3 kids living in a room.
Yeah.
And I walk out to the kitchen and I say to Lucy, when is it that they're going to finally learn to clean up their room? And Lucy asked me, well, how many times have you told them? And I said, I must have told them 100 times. She goes, well, you might have to try another 500 times.
Good answer.
So there you go. Now,
in different ways, in different languages,
just
and
got to
visual
keep,
effects.
got to keep
maybe
doing
send them
it.
a PowerPoint.
Exactly,
That's
exactly right. All right.
So Lucy, you came from a big family. Did you always know that you wanted to have a big family?
Oh, no.
No.
Well, when I was a teenager, I remember telling my mom, what the heck were you thinking having this many kids? Look at all these dishes. Look at all this laundry. This is ridiculous. And I didn't think it was a fabulous idea because I knew how much work it was.
Yeah.
And when Dennis and I got married, we each had already been married and had 1 child each. And when we got married, we thought, we should have a couple kids. That would be good.
Well, that was the only reason we got married, was to have a couple kids.
Yeah. Otherwise, we would have just not gotten married.
Probably not.
So, no, we didn't think that there would be a lot of kids. We had 1, and then, oh, yes, we should have another 1, and then 1 more seemed like a good idea. And it's been 1 more ever since.
One of the questions that someone asked, I asked via social media, talking about what we were going to be talking about today. Someone asked, do you think that you would have all the lessons that you have with less children? Like, what would be the, how would you even know, really? Like, what's the stopping point? Like 3 versus 6 or 7? Like, can you even imagine having less?
Ultimately, I think that everybody's life is perfect for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that it doesn't matter if you have 1 kid or 10 kids or no kids, that your life is sufficient for you to learn, grow, move, and enjoy. And I honestly have absolutely no explanation for giving birth 11 times. It doesn't make any sense in the, sort of reasonable, doesn't make any math sense, doesn't make economic sense. I understand that the world is overpopulated. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But there was I think we just both had a driving desire to do it, and a belief in that things don't have to make sense if it feels right.
I like that. I also want to pull out something that you just said, that and you, if I phrase this wrong, please correct me, but that everybody has the right, their life is perfect, or it is what it is, without any restrictions or plans or anything, really. And I think when I told people you guys were coming on, I've known you for a while. I consider you one of my business consultants, or one of my business mentors, rather. And
wow,
Lucy,
I hadn't really thought about that.
That's
awfully nice. I wanted to tell you that you're on my favorite human list. So it's okay.
And then when I met Lucy, I met her briefly the first time that I met both of you, and then I met you where we got to spend a little time together, and with your middle child, which I was really excited about.
Yeah.
And you were on my list too. These are good humans in this studio today. But when I'm telling people about, okay, I'm having this couple on, they have 12 children, and most people are just like, oh my gosh. And I think why they say, oh my gosh, is I think people, and I'll include myself in it as a single person, we have a hard time just relating to one person, or being in community, being in friendship with one person, or finding someone to marry, or any of these are normal challenges right now, much less thinking about this life, what I keep describing in a tribe, like you have. You wake up every day, there's people around you, you're participating in their growth and their well-being, and that sounds really challenging for somebody that's single living in LA. I don't even blame LA. I blame the phone. I blame social media and all these things, that have taken away the idea, or even just the knowledge, that you can find joy in simple things, like playing cards with one of your kids. I'm sure that's a lot of fun. So I like what you just said, that it wasn't like we've really planned this out. It just felt like our life. This is what we were gonna do, and we just kept going for it.
Yeah.
It happened.
It happened.
It happened. And the interesting thing for me is, for me is that I'm amazed at how sad I am that there aren't any more.
Babies.
I know that just sounds, and I'm sure that just sounds crazy, actually. But it's a tribe of really, really great people. That's the thing that's so exciting about it. They really are. People often ask me, what are your kids like? And I have to just say, they're just really cool people. They're not. I don't try to see them as my kids. Actually, they're such cool people.
You're not the only one who feels like that. I mean,
well, I'm
others,
expressing
the
mine.
Children have said there should be more. Wouldn't it be great if there were more?
Oh wow!
Wouldn't it be great if we had another little bubber?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great?
Do you feel the same way? Do you feel this?
Yeah, I mean, physically, I can't. I'm in my 50s. Yeah. I can't do that stuff anymore.
Well, we're in Hollywood. These ladies are having babies.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, no.
Doctors and crazy. Yeah.
I already had my veins fixed, so it's not going to happen.
It's done.
But there is sort of that sentiment of, wouldn't it be great if there were more? And I just said to Molly, the one you met yesterday, you're going to have to be the one. She goes, I'm too young, Mama. I said, I know you're too young, but this is where the babies are coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's working with kids.
Yeah,
That's
she was
interesting.
Because the older ones don't want to have children, or what's?
They're all
No,
still too
they're
young.
too.
Yeah,
They're
they're
still
too
too young.
Well, Allie and Lauren both would love to have a child, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're working on it.
So that's coming. I mean, you're not grandparents yet.
no,
We're not.
So that's coming.
Yeah, it
Actually,
could be, yeah.
you don't get to be sad about that.
No,
Yeah,
that would
there's
be
gotta
great.
be some
That would be
grandchildren
great. That would be
That
fantastic.
house is never going to be empty.
It won't.
More.
No, we don't have the empty nest problem
No.
anytime soon.
No.
No.
All right. Well, so we're talking about the kids. Let's find out more about them. So I like the idea of learning through, like, if they had to post a Yelp review on your parenting, what would maybe one of the older children say, and how is that different from the younger children?
You know, I have to admit that I've never made a Yelp review, and also I don't have that app. And so
Probably a good thing.
I'm a little fuzzy on the question.
Well, just a review. So if they
But-
were gonna, how about this? If they were gonna write a book report
Oh, that's
and give
that's-
their parents, some stars and give a little rating on their parenting,
Yeah.
what would that look like?
Well, they tell us they really like us.
They're probably.
They might be sugarcoating it because we still pay for pretty much everything. But I'll tell you, my oldest daughter, Allie, when she got married, which didn't last, but that's okay. She called me up and she said, you know, you and Dad made this look really easy. And this is really hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's in a much different style of relationship now that is much easier.
Yeah.
And I think, and she has told me, you know, I get it. I get this idea of finding someone that you can sync with.
Yeah.
And that it's not that you're the same, but that you find someone that you can sync with.
Yeah.
And that you're both willing to sort of balance each other out and work with each other. And so I think that most of them sort of have that sense that they see that we're very connected.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you ask the older boys, they would say that, in specific to me, that I've changed a lot over the last 10 years, because they're first of all, when they were in the really younger ages, I wasn't around as much. I was working I was working a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd come home and it was Dad's home, or that kind of thing. So I think they would say that I've mellowed a bit.
Yeah.
They would say that Dad's mellowed, and now he's a real softie, because all the little kids get away with stuff that they wouldn't be able to get away with.
Yeah.
So
I
I think I would think they would say that, but I think they would say that I think the older kids would also say that I guess I would say that they would think that we've given them the tools they need to live well.
Yeah.
I think they would say that.
I'd say that. What's coming up for me in both of your answers, and something earlier that I think Lucy said, is you're teaching them how to make choices. Like, you choose to not look at this like chaos. Like you've chosen to chill out a little bit.
Sure. Absolutely.
You're showing them that they are in, for lack of better words, control of that. Like, there's very little that we can control, but how we choose to look at the world and look at
Absolutely.
problems, that's the only thing we've got. So
That's right.
in this busy household, there's a lot of opportunity for choices in a day, I'm sure.
It is.
To spin out or just go, well, that's how it is, or that room's going to be clean and smelly until the boys decide to, they can't live like that anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
All right. Okay, so I'm sure people, if they're listening, that parents, they want parenting advice or some tips. So let's just cover a couple topics. Like, is there a time, or is there a go-to thing if, like, you really need to, like, regain peace in the household because there's kids and they have friends over and there's just a lot going on. Is there a go-to, like, this is how we calm everybody down, or is there just kind of peace? Like, are there fights between siblings?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Mostly girls.
Oh.
Yeah, occasionally.
Our boys don't tend to really fight with each other. They might get mad at one another and then walk away from each other.
It's so
you know what I mean? They're not.
infrequent,
The boys do not engage each other really. They'll say, you know, you're being a jerk. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much their style,
Yeah.
which is also Dennis's style.
You've taught them that.
This isn't working for me right now.
I'm
I
out.
gotta go. Luckily, we have, 3,000 square feet of ranch-style house.
Yeah.
So there's a big space to move into.
I think there's a lesson even there, though. So what I'm picking up on, it's like, because I know, just personally, if I'm really fused and upset, I know that's not the best time to address something. Like, I've got to walk away and go, okay, like, I want to create safety in communication and interactions with friends and family. And if I'm supercharged, there's not a lot of safety for that other person. It's probably not going to be really productive. So I think that's probably a tip right there, is just like, don't react in the moment, and just let it, chill out a little bit and then come back when everybody can have more of a.
And this is kind of what girls tend to do with each other. Really react right away.
Yeah.
And get one up on the meanness if they can. As, we all remember junior high.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a
girls,
sister. I know what that's like.
It's rough, and so, of course, for me, my strategies have changed over the years as I have learned my own life strategies, then I share them with my kids, So when I was younger, I would just say, all right, you two are not allowed to speak to each other.
Yeah.
And various things like, okay, you're going to take each 10 minutes, maybe 3 girls are sharing a room.
Mm-hmm.
You're each going to go in by yourself for 10 minutes, clean your stuff. You get out, then you can go in. You can be by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, to separate that business. But recently, I have taught my daughters all this idea of, look, you have a limited amount of energy that is yours, that you own. It was given to you by the source of all energy. It is yours, but it is limited.
Mm-hmm.
And it is your choice what you do with it and how you use it. And you're responsible for it and to it.
Yeah.
And so if you are, hurting someone else with what your life source is, then you're going to be accountable to that.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel very good.
Yeah.
And the person who's maybe the victim, you don't have to let anyone's energy in that you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
It's your job, it's your responsibility and right to say, no thanks. You may have all this for me, but I don't take it.
Yeah.
And this we call unplugging.
Unplugging.
Yeah.
This we call unplugging. So I had taught it to Annie already recently, and then I was talking to someone else, and she walked by and she goes, "Oh, are you teaching her about unplugging, Mom?"
I love it. They know the term.
I'm like, "Yeah, I'm teaching her about unplugging."
I can relate to that. I do this, and I'll say, you wake up with so much energy.
Yeah.
You only have so many places and people that you can put it out to. If you pour it out, like if you're just a pitcher of water, if you pour all that out and you're not careful about what's coming back in, you're done. You're exhausted at the end of the day.
Right.
So being careful about that and being in more positive, inspirational exchanges maybe is something to watch for.
Yep.
Right.
The guy cut you off in traffic. Does he really deserve to get your care?
Right. Can you afford to spend whatever
it's like a
energy
bank account.
that's going to take?
Yeah, energy bank account. That's what I'm unplugging. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of unplugging, I guess I have to ask this because we talk about this a lot here. What's the rule for cell phones and at dinner table and just cell phones in general in the house?
We don't have rules.
No, there's no rules.
Do you know,
go ahead. I'll let you go, but I've got to.
Dennis can say more about this.
Maybe.
But here's our general philosophy, and that is that if you regulate children, then you better be there for the rest of their life. because if they don't learn to self-regulate, then they're never going to be able to leave you.
Yeah.
They're never going to be able to go out into the world. And so we haven't, when we first had computers, and everybody now has their own device. So you don't have to have a computer or 2 or 3 computers in the den anymore.
Yeah.
But that's what it used to look like, computers in the den.
Yeah.
Right? And we never put on all that parental control software stuff. And there were meetings at the schools and everywhere about how to control. And really, our approach from the very beginning of technology in our house has been teach our kids to use it responsibly, educate them on the consequences of their use, and trust them to grow up into the people that they are.
Yeah, and I would also, I'd add to that, rules are meant to be broken, right? So if you create them, they're sure to break them.
Yeah.
And then they've got the issue of being 16 years old and trying to figure out, how to be 16 years old inside a set of rules that maybe make no sense because I'm carrying something forward from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I mean, the devices that they carry around are well, we were talking about it before the show. They're just part of, that's the world they live in. It's the world they grew up in, and that's how they communicate. And although it may be uncomfortable for you, and in some respects uncomfortable for me.
Not me.
Not you. No, you've embraced it entirely.
You love
you absolutely love it. I have to say,
It pisses you off,
it
too.
does piss me off. It doesn't
Texting or
piss me
what?
off, but texting. I mean, just the whole thing. She's so.
Are you selfieing him?
She does. Yeah, the whole thing. And so for me, I mean, it's theirs. They own
cute
it. It's
though,
theirs.
right?
It
It's
is
cute.
cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
Okay,
It's
good.
cute. I mean, it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I had something. I don't know.
Sorry.
I got excited and then I forgot what I was
Shoot.
gonna say.
Shoot.
Texting. Well, what I was thinking is like you guys in your household and your children have something that kids that are just going to school and don't have as many siblings don't have, which is they already have a built-in circle of influence. So
They
when
do.
you share something and share your views and kind of talk to them about it, they get to talk to each other. They're probably getting some of that information at the same time, and they get to learn and with each other.
Yeah.
They have access to that all the time. Where
Yeah.
kids that don't have siblings close to them in age or don't have siblings and they just are being influenced by other kids at school. It's different.
This makes our job so much easier.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There are times when you have, as a parent, a difficult time reaching a child on some day
Yeah.
or some issue. Just last night, one of our daughters was, in my mind, overly upset about something she really didn't need to be that upset about.
Yeah.
And I did my best to be compassionate. But later, as I was leaving to teach class, she and her older sister were having a powwow in the garage living space. And when I came back an hour and a half later, I said to my older daughter, "Did you work things out?" And she said, "Oh yeah, Mom, 100%, don't worry."
It's what it is. I just had this vision, like they're all your kids. They have parts of you. So if you start planting the seed, it's likely that another child will come along because they have parts of you in them and help water that seed or make it grow a little bit. So maybe it is easier to have more children. I don't.
It does make things so much easier.
I couldn't agree more with that. They take care of themselves. I mean, they
And
really
each
look
other.
out for each other.
They do.
Yeah.
They really look
And the
out for
older
each other.
kids take on leadership roles from time to time.
Oh,
and
Often.
it's a beautiful thing.
when you watch it, it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see both of you in each of them, or a little more? And some
Well,
like,
Noah's Dennis 2.0.
Noah's the golfer. Noah's the golfer.
Noah's the
Yeah, I've
golfer,
heard
yeah.
about Noah.
Yeah.
He telling me I'm dad with all the bugs fixed.
I love
All the bugs worked out.
I think that's probably somewhat true, although I think he's got a couple. But
Everybody has bugs.
everybody's got
Everybody's
bugs, for
Oh
sure.
no, he's perfect.
Oh, he is.
He's
Okay.
my son.
He's your son. That's true.
All my children are perfect.
That's right.
But yes, definitely we see certain traits, in them. Noah's a lot like his dad.
Yeah.
So, but many of them are just very mixed or not strongly one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
wouldn't say that.
definitely their own.
Now I'm thinking of identity. Thinking about that. And like I said, I'm a middle child, and I have those middle child issues of sort of, I'm not getting all the attention for being a baby, or I'm not the oldest, and so I just think about it a lot. I think
Sure.
that's been a struggle of mine. What do you do knowing that there is so many in the household to make sure everybody does get to exhibit or be themselves, or feels like they're getting attention? Like, how do you manage that?
I think that, first of all, the kids who golf hang out with Dennis.
Okay. How many of who golfs? The older boys?
There's
So
two
far,
older boys,
boys.
two older boys,
Molly
and now a younger
tried for a
boy is
while, but
now a younger one is starting to try and get interested in it, and so there's a few.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
boys have golfed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Molly golfed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. This idea of every child needs specific one-on-one time and this kind of thing hasn't really sprouted in our world, and I can't say why.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the idea,
Yeah.
and certainly I've heard about it my whole life.
Yeah.
Did
Did you feel it in your upbringing with your siblings?
Our house is actually our home is actually very similar to the way I grew up,
Okay.
where there's a lot of equality. The parents aren't don't take up more space than the kids.
For sure.
You're like the
up.
Zappos management 101, like how
Yeah.
Zappos runs their business where the CEO is out in a cubicle. That's kind of what it's like. And he's in the same
Yeah.
cubicle with the employees.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think, in academic terms, like servant leadership,
Would be.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and I grew up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's not, because it's flat, there's not Dennis and I up here, and we need to hit all of these underlings equally.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
so it's all flat. And so if three
Well,
kids want to go to the movies, and I have a 18-year-old who's willing to take these little kids to the movies, and I arrange that to happen, and they'll have a good time, that's valuable.
Yeah.
The fact that I wasn't there doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be a problem.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? There's the pieces of you are there, and everybody's getting attention, not just from the two of you, but from their siblings. Like, it is this. Maybe it's easier again with more children, is what I'm hearing.
Well, all I was going to add was that it has a lot to do with what you're attempting to do with this show, which is, if you're in the house and you're, as long as you're giving them your full attention for whatever that is, whether it's making breakfast or, sitting on the couch or whatever it is, if they feel like you're there and you're not on your phone and you're not, concerned about other things, then that's the attention they need, really. I mean, when all is said and done, they need to feel like they are being heard and that they're being a part of what's going on. And that's, I think, what we try to do, or I know what I try to do. When I walk in the house and I say hello to someone, and they want to talk to me, then I sort of say, okay, give me 5 minutes and let's talk. That's, I think, what the attention
and we
is.
have a pretty open door policy. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for
we
sure.
we don't have a lot of privacy.
I
Dennis and
can't imagine you do.
I mean, we have a master suite,
Yeah.
but we never shut
With
the
a
door.
lock?
Really,
Yeah.
it has a
Yeah.
lock. But it's not. I mean, our kids hang out with us all the time, and
Yeah, you could be.
when they
we
need
could
to
be.
talk about something, we're there. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was this, I get a hint of this, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. And what you just shared, Dennis, is there's a sequence to being available to listen. So you, in that moment of getting home, you're like, okay, I got to decompress, and now
Right.
I'm going to be available. And I think that's what everybody wants. I think that it's gotten harder for people to really be available for someone because they're tuned into their phone or they're worried about what's going on in the world, and there's just massive amounts of noise coming at you.
For sure.
But slowing down and just being there to go, I'm hearing, I see you, I hear you, let's talk. Like, I think everybody wants that.
yeah.
Well, and you just have to be, you have to be honest about it. So, like, if you can't talk right now, you just say, look, yes, you're going to need me, give me 10 or 15 minutes. I got to do something. Once I get that done, we can chat.
Yeah, I like
It's just a matter of allowing them to feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And that you're willing and ready to talk to them. And most importantly, and I think I've had to learn this, I think more than anything, is the idea that I don't have all the answers. I used to think I did, and I don't. And what I want to be able to do is listen, and just keep listening until they say, well, what do you think? And when they say, what do you think, then I can kind of give them a couple of different ideas.
I think that's probably the best parenting advice that you could give. I mean, not just listening.
Yeah.
Just be available for listening. I think it's good advice for relationships. Any kind of a relationship really is just slow down and listen.
For sure.
Well, and to really have faith in people.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That they are whole, they are complete, they are capable. It's very easy to overshadow a child with your good intentions of telling them how to do something.
Yeah.
Or what they're doing wrong.
And
That's
to
one of
give
my
them
favorites.
the idea that they don't have everything they need within themselves to live their life, that they're not equal to their life. And so, especially as our kids get older, I feel like I teach them the same thing I teach everybody wherever I'm teaching, is that connect into your basic goodness, your whole, complete center of who you are, and let that develop so that you can move in the world in a way that is fun for you.
Yeah.
And, have a good time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, we are getting close to the end of the show. I now can see the comments and who's joined us on Facebook. If you guys have any questions, send them to me now, and if we can fit them in, I will. In the meantime, so we've talked a lot about your life at home, and you've been on in the hot seats about this, but I want to do something fun. I have this random table topic box, and it's silly questions. It's called Not Your Mother's Dinner Party. I have no idea what's in here. We'll just do one. You guys will both answer it.
Okay.
If you like. If
Sure.
it's too...
Too racy, we won't do that.
They're never too racy. I mean, your answer is the racy thing.
Oh, well,
the
okay.
question is
It's sure to be
PG.
racy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question is, what would be one good thing about being the opposite sex? It's actually a good thing to ask parents.
You want to go first, or?
That's easy for me.
Uh-huh.
I would love to be stronger, physically stronger. And so a lot of times I'm trying to do something and by myself because I want to accomplish it. And I just think, gosh darn it, if I just were stronger.
I got it. Mayonnaise jar.
All kinds of stuff,
I got
right? Then I have to go get Dennis. Can you please move this for me, or
or one of your boys,
or one of the boys,
or one of the boys,
Yeah.
which I'm sure they love to do.
I wish I could do this myself, but I just don't have the chops.
I think the thing that I would like to have the I'm trying to think of what the word is, and I'm struggling to. I think I'd like to have the ability not to see things as things that I can fix. I think women have this ability to just not worry about fixing everything, and men tend to want to, like, okay, I see the problem, I'm going to fix it. I see the problem, I'm going to fix
Yeah.
it. Fix it. I like to be able to have a different look at that.
Yeah.
And I've tried to cultivate it a bit, but I immediately go back to wanting to fix stuff.
There you go. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting close to the end of the show.
Okay.
So the last thing that we do on Relatable is what I call a heart swell, and really what it is just looking more to the camera and sharing like a dedication, a commitment, a new goal to someone, just telling them, how much they've meant to you, just something that just comes up that's like deep felt that you want to say to another person. And the reason that I do this is I like the idea of showing that deep feelings are not scary. And the more that we share in this way, that we're just raising the level of empathy in the world, which I think we need right now. So, yeah. So, and you guys will work it out who's going first if you have one, or maybe you have one together, I don't know. But if you're willing to do that, I'd love for you to share something to somebody that's in your heart right now.
You're going to have to go first on this one.
Give her some time.
Well, I know that the kids are going to be watching this, so it's hard for me not to share.
You can bundle them. You can
right?
say the
No,
same
just
thing,
no.
yeah.
It's hard for me not to share a thought or two. For all of you, you really need to recognize and understand that you are amazing people, and that if I'm speaking for myself, I am generally amazed by who you are and the things that you do for one another and the things that you can do in the world. And we've talked about these things before, but I would just say to you and challenge you to bring the spirit that you have, the spirit that lives within our tribe at home, to everyone you meet. And I know you've done that, and I challenge you, and I want you to continue to do that, because it's needed, and the world needs it, and it's going to need it even more as we continue to go down this path. And I'm just, I love watching you guys live. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Well, I
That's
got a lot more, but
I can feel that, and it's like they're all here in the room. It's like I didn't just get you two; I got all these children in the room. Yeah, I can feel that. That was very.
So I got to
beautiful.
look at the camera that way.
You might want to. You could give it to me, but or Dennis, but yeah, you might.
I
want
would
to.
just say that to all of my kids and everyone in their generation, this whether it's millennials or Z, you are equal to your life and to everything that's going to come to you. So just live it.
Thank you. That was awesome. Now you know why they're beautiful people and they have beautiful children. I wish sometimes when I do these shows, I just wish I could bottle up how I feel in this moment and let people know, because they're only seeing one dimension, where they're hearing and they're seeing, but they're not feeling what's here. And I really love you both. I would like to be an honorary Bernstein.
You're
if the position,
welcome.
I don't want to be in a room with the stinky boys, but I would like to. I would like to hang out and be honorary
welcome
Bernstein.
anytime.
All right. All right,
You
well,
know that.
Yes, I would love to. I'd love to hang out at dinner time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, that does bring us to the end of the show. I thank you both for being here. I know you
pleasure.
don't do things like
Thank
this,
you.
and I really appreciate you taking the time to share. And I will share, so Lucy, like I said, teaches yoga, and I'll share her site, and Dennis' LinkedIn profile. If you want to connect with either one of them, you can take her class, and as he mentioned, he's a management consultant, and I've experienced that side of him. He's really awesome, so you can reach out to them. I will share that after the show. Next show, I'm going to be, I have a man named Peter on, and Peter's that guy that, like, you don't know, you meet in an elevator and says something to you and it makes your whole day. He's that guy, like that, just kind of, just tones in, like, lady, you're working that hat, and like says that. And so we're gonna talk about what we could do more to be like Peter on my next show. I'm also challenging. I'm shifting the show a little bit, and I like this idea of stump the relator. I pride myself on saying that I can relate to just about anything, but I also have been the weirdo for most of my life, wanting to dive into this, like, relating and communications, and people are like, why do you care so much about this? And so I know there's others out there that have this thing that they really care about, and maybe your friends and family don't really get it. I want to hear from you. I want to bring you on the show and let's talk about it. Let's hear what your passions are, and maybe you can stump me. Maybe I can't relate to you, and I'm gonna really try. But it's still cool. Like Lucy said, it's like you have everything that everything you're doing is fine and great, and just do it. So I want to hear about that. You can reach out to me at Love More Now on Twitter or Relate with Steph on Instagram. And lastly, so I said the social challenge of the day is to make a favorite human list. So just think about who's on that, and if you're having a hard time thinking about it, think about the qualities of the people that you'd want to have on it. And when you get a list going, reach out to them and say, you're on my favorite human list because I can always count on you, or you tell great stories, or you're funny, you have the best jokes, and let them know. I'm sharing a graphic right after the show via Twitter, and I'll put it out through my page that you can actually just put a little post on their page with this graphic and say you're on my favorite human list. So I'd love for you to do that and let people know and spread that good energy. And lastly, we have a PSE on Sunday, June 11th at the Relational Center. This is the yoga class of relating. Great things are happening there. We just do some feel-good relating. I'd love to meet you. Come out for that. That is this Sunday. And until then, I just challenge and encourage everybody to relate with more curiosity. See you next week.
You're listening to Relatable with Stephanie Michele, only on LA Talk Radio.